So over the last 6 months or so, I've been making some pretty big changes in my studio here because I upgraded everything to Atmos. I've been getting a bunch of questions on the setup and some things, so I thought I would take a few minutes and just kind of walk you through what I did in here and talk a little bit about it. I upgraded to Atmos because I've been following the format for about 10 years since it debuted in cinemas, and I've kind of been watching the development of it. And when Apple Music announced that they were going to start distributing music in Atmos and I got a chance to listen to it, I really got hooked. I just love the format. I love listening to music in Atmos, and I just really wanted to work in the format. So one of the first changes I made was I went to a smaller desk in my studio, and I kind of wanted to do this for a long time, to do sort of a mastering style, kind of really compact sort of desk. Couple of engineers who inspired me, Peter Cadis, I looked at his setup, and then Warren David up in Nashville. They both have really compact desks. And I wanted it because the more desk I have, the more stuff and junk I just throw all over the place. But really, from an acoustic standpoint, the smaller the desk you have, the smaller the impact you're going to have on the acoustics. And especially with going to Atmos and having a lot more speakers in my room, I really wanted to do whatever I could to minimize what was going to happen with the acoustics, because there's one thing that I'm not getting rid of, and that's this awesome window I have here, because I spent way too many years in dark studios and dark auditoriums working, and I love having the natural sunlight and being able to look out the window while I'm working. So that wasn't going away. So anything I could do to help with the acoustics, in addition to what I've already done in here, I thought, hey, let's do it. And that's why I went to this desk. And I bought a tabletop off of Amazon, and I built a frame. I'm not great at building things, but I was able to just kind of build a frame, and it has been working out great so far. So the next thing I changed out was my audio interface, and I went with the Avid Matrix Studio. One of the big things that's important when you're setting up for Atmos is there's a lot of speakers, so you need an interface with a lot of outputs. I actually have 13 speakers in my studio now, and the Matrix Studio has all the outputs I needed. And the other big thing that it has built in that was really important for me was the ability to calibrate it all. It's really important that you get all of your speakers at the same level. You want to get them all kind of time aligned so that at the mix position they're all arriving at the same time. The setup I have in here is an equidistant setup, which I'll talk about when I get to the speakers. But you have to calibrate stuff electronically to kind of refine it and tweak it to really get the best setup. There's also a calibration curve that Dolby recommends, and to get that on your speakers, you need a way to process that. And it's a lot of speakers, and that's why I went with the Matrix Studio, because it works really well with Pro Tools. There's a lot of great features on it. I mean, it's more of a routing matrix, actually, than it really is an interface. I mean, when you add in the Dante capabilities that it has with the I/O on there, you can really route stuff all over the place. And I've been taking advantage of that a lot, just moving audio back and forth between my studio machine and my laptop, and just really being able to do some cool stuff with that. The other thing that was really important to me in the Matrix Studio is it has built-in speaker calibration. So it doesn't do it automatically, but I have measurement software, and I used SonarWorks to do the measurements and get me the EQ settings that I could then put into the Matrix Studio to get all of these speakers basically sounding the same. Because when you start panning stuff around, you don't want to hear it changing as you go from the front to the back. You want it to stay consistent. So it's real important that your speakers all sound really as close to exactly the same as you can get them. There are other options out there for interfaces and processing, but when I started pricing it all out and looking at it, it didn't seem like I was going to save any money going with a different solution. So I just went all in one with the Matrix Studio. The converters are from DAD, which is Digital Audio Denmark, and they make great converters. So I've got great converters, I've got all the I/O I need, and I've got the calibration ability that I needed for the system. Let's talk about speakers. I have a 714 setup in here. So the first number 7 refers to the number of speakers you have at ear level. The 1, which is the next number, that refers to your low frequency channels, or the LFE as we call it. And then the 4, which is that last number, that refers to how many height channels I have. So I have 7 ear level speakers. I have 1 channel of low frequency, and then I have 4 height channels. For the ear level speakers, I went with the Focal Solo 6 BEs. I've had a pair of these for about 3 years, and I love them. So it just made sense to expand the stereo setup I've been working on for a long time, and I added another 5 to it, which is kind of crazy. But I love the speakers, so I have 7 of them now, and it is awesome. For the subwoofer, I went with the Focal Sub 6, which pairs really well with the Focal Solo 6. I actually have a pair of subwoofers in here, and there's a couple of reasons for that. The main reason is it helps fix a whole bunch of acoustic stuff in the room. This is a Carl Tatz thing that I learned. You put them in the corners, and it cancels out a bunch of room modes. I've got one in either corner of the front of my studio. It smoothed out my low end way more than I ever thought it would. The other thing it does is it gives me more headroom for low frequency, which is really nice because in Atmos there is so much more dynamic range. I don't have a limiter crushing my mixes anymore, and I can actually get a lot more low frequency that way, because when you start doing a lot of heavy limiting on your mix, your low frequency starts to go away. And in Atmos, I've got it all back. It's really awesome. For the height channels, I went with the Focal Alpha 50 Evos. I wanted to stay with Focal because Dolby recommends staying with the same manufacturer if you're going to change the model type of your speakers, just to kind of have everything in that sort of same family. I looked at some different ways of doing the height channels. I know Bob Clearmountain is basically just using consumer level Atmos kind of height channels. I thought about that, but I just thought if I went that way, I would probably want to change it up at some point to really kind of get something closer to what I have at ear level. And the Alpha 50s, they're more affordable focals, and they also have the mounting hardware on the back so that you can actually mount them. And everything in the setup was pretty easy to do, except mounting speakers is a pain on the ceiling. And the way I did it was I have these boards that go across the joists in my ceiling, and then I have some K&M mounts that mounted to those boards, and it's been solid. Those things, I could probably hang off of them. It's really sturdy. I'm not going to do that, but I've been really happy with it. So the setup in here, something else I should mention, is it is an equidistant setup. And what that basically means is the goal is to have every speaker equidistant from the mix position. Now, mine aren't exact in here just because of some things I had to do with placement, but that's where the calibration comes in hand, because with the calibration process, I can use electronic delay to basically get everything arriving right here. And everything was within a millisecond of this, so that's not that far off. I mean, it's 6 inches to a foot, probably, in some places, but it sounds great. It just feels really immersive in here, and I have been loving working in the format. So if you've got questions about Dolby Atmos, I love talking about this right now. Please leave a comment below and I will answer it in the comments, or maybe I'll make another video on it. And if you have music you would like to find out how to get it mixed in Dolby Atmos, you can email me through my website at staglproductions.com. I would love to hear from you and love to see how I can help you out. So thanks for watching. I will see you soon.